Admiral Jiwan sat in her command chair on Luna Station, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. Her fingers moved across the control panel, checking the daily reports from the outer defense systems. Everything looked normal. Earth. Below her glowed blue and green, peaceful and quiet. The morning shift had just started, and coffee filled the air with its warm smell. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Hyuna from the communications desk, "I'm getting some strange readings from the outer sensors." Jiwan turned her chair toward the young officer. Hyuna had been working communications for 3 years now. She knew her job well and never called out false alarms. "What kind of strange?" Jiwan asked, standing up and walking over to Hyuna's station. "Multiple contacts, ma'am. Large ones. They just appeared at the edge of our sensor range near Pluto's orbit." Hyuna's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "The computer says they're ships, but they're not broadcasting any identification signals." Jiwan felt her stomach tighten. In her 20 years of service, unidentified ships always meant trouble. She pressed the communication button that connected her to Captain Minho on the patrol cruiser Aegis. "Minho, this is Luna Station. We have unknown contacts in your sector. Can you confirm?" Minho's voice came through clear and calm. "Confirmed, Admiral. I count 15 large vessels. They're bigger than anything in our database, moving toward the inner system at high speed." Jiwan walked back to her command station and activated the main display screen. The tactical map showed red dots moving slowly but steadily toward Mars. Each dot represented a ship larger than Earth's biggest battleships. "Communications, open a channel on all frequencies," Jiwan ordered. "Unknown. Vessels, this is Admiral Jiwan of the Terran Defense Force. You have entered human space without permission. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The bridge fell silent. Everyone waited for a response. Seconds passed, then minutes. The red dots on the screen kept moving toward Mars, ignoring the communication completely. Hyuna shook her head. "No response, Admiral. They're not even acknowledging our transmission." Captain Minho's voice came through the speakers again. "Admiral, I'm getting a better look at these ships now. They're definitely not human design. The hull configuration is completely alien. And they're armed. Really well armed." Jiwan's training kicked in. Unknown ships, ignoring communication, heavily armed, heading toward populated areas. This looked like an invasion force. She activated the emergency alert system. "All stations, this is Admiral Jiwan. We have a potential hostile contact. Raise defense condition to yellow. All civilian traffic in the outer system, return to port immediately." On the tactical display, the alien ships continued their approach. They moved in perfect formation, like they had done this many times before. Their course would take them directly past Mars, where over 2 million people lived and worked in the colonies. "Admiral," Hyuna called out, "I'm detecting jamming signals from the alien fleet. They're blocking civilian communication channels." That was the final piece of evidence Jiwan needed. No peaceful exploration mission would jam civilian communications. These aliens had come here to cause harm. Captain Minho, close to inspection. "Distance, but do not engage. I want eyes on these ships." "Understood, Admiral. Moving to intercept." Jiwan activated another communication channel. This one connected her directly to Major Tae-hyung on the orbital defense platform Guardian. "Tae-hyung, bring your platform online. Full power to weapons and shields." "Already on it, Admiral. Guardian is ready for action." Through the viewing window, Jiwan could see other defense platforms beginning to move. Lights appeared on their hulls as weapon systems came online. After decades of peace, humanity's military was waking up. On the tactical screen, Captain Minho's ship approached the alien formation. The Aegis was a modern patrol cruiser, fast and well-armed, but it looked tiny next to the alien vessels. "Admiral, I have visual contact," Minho reported. "These ships are massive, dark gray hulls with strange markings. They look like they're built for war. And Admiral, they're beautiful in a terrifying way." "Any response to your presence, Captain?" "Negative. They're ignoring me completely. It's like I don't exist." Jiwan made her decision. "All stations raise. Alert status to red. This is not a drill. Unknown alien force approaching Mars with hostile intent." Across human space, the alert went out. On Earth, government leaders received emergency briefings. On Mars, colony administrators began evacuation. Procedures. On the outer stations, military personnel ran to their battle stations. The alien fleet continued forward, steady and unstoppable. G1 counted them again. 15 massive ships, each one capable of destroying a city. They had the firepower to conquer the entire solar system if humans couldn't stop them. "Admiral," Yuna said quietly, "I'm detecting more ships jumping in behind the first group. It looks like reinforcements." Jiwan's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a raid or exploration mission. This was a full-scale invasion. The aliens had planned this carefully. They knew about human settlements and had brought enough force to crush any resistance. "Captain Minho, fall back to defense position. Do not engage unless fired upon." "Roger that, Admiral. Aegis is withdrawing. Major Tae-hyung's voice came through the speakers. "Admiral, Guardian is in position. All weapon systems show green. Just give the word." Jiwan stared at the tactical display. The alien ships kept coming, growing larger on the screen with each passing minute. Soon they would reach Mars. Soon they would be close enough to attack the colonies where millions of people lived and worked. She thought about her daughter on Earth, probably getting ready for school. She thought about her brother working in the Mars mines. She thought about all the innocent people who had no idea that aliens existed, let alone that they were about to be attacked. "All ships, all stations," Jiwan announced over the fleet communication channel. "Unknown alien force has entered human space with apparent hostile intent. They refuse communication and are jamming civilian channels. As of this moment, we consider them an invasion force." She paused, looking out at the stars where humanity had built a peaceful civilization among the planets. "The defense of human space begins now. All units, prepare for combat operations. We will not let them pass." The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. None of them had ever imagined it would begin with war. But as Admiral Jiwan watched the alien fleet approach, she knew that humans would not surrender their homes without a fight. The stars that had always seemed so peaceful now held an enemy that threatened everything humanity had built. But they would soon learn that humans did not give up easily. The invasion had begun, but so had humanity's response. Admiral Jiwan watched the alien fleet grow larger on her screens. The massive ships had ignored every attempt at communication. Now they were only 6 hours away from Mars. Time was running out for the 2 million people living in the colonies. "Major Tae-hyung," she called over the communication system. "Prepare to fire a warning shot. I want one plasma blast across their bow. Make it visible, but non-threatening." Major Tae-hyung commanded the orbital defense platform Guardian. It was humanity's most powerful weapon in the solar system. The platform could move between planets, powered by fusion reactors and armed with plasma cannons that could crack asteroids. "Admiral, Guardian is ready to fire," Tae-hyung reported. Targeting solution locked on empty space in front of the lead alien ship. Ji-won took a deep breath. This would be humanity's first hostile action against an alien species. She hoped it would also be the last. Maybe the aliens just didn't understand human communication methods. Maybe a show of force would make them stop and talk. "Fire warning shot," she ordered. On the main screen, everyone watched a bright blue beam lance out from Guardian toward the alien fleet. The plasma bolt was designed to miss the ships completely, passing in front of them as a clear message: stop or face consequences. But something went wrong. The alien ship suddenly changed course, moving directly into the path of the plasma beam. The bolt that was meant to pass harmlessly in front struck the alien vessel's shield systems. "Direct hit," Tae-hyung called out in surprise. "Admiral, they moved into the shot." On the tactical display, the alien ship's energy readings flickered. Sparks appeared along its hull as its shields overloaded. The massive vessel, larger than any human ship, shuddered under the impact of Guardian's plasma cannon. Lieutenant Huna stared at her instruments in shock. "Admiral, their shields just collapsed completely. That one shot took down their entire defensive system." Ji-won felt a chill run down her spine. The plasma bolt had been set to minimum power, just enough to be visible. If such a weak shot could destroy alien shields, what would happen with full power? "Are you sure those readings are correct?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. Their shield generators are completely offline. And Admiral, I'm detecting massive damage to their hull. That ship is venting atmosphere." Captain Minho's voice came through the speakers from his patrol ship. "Admiral, I can see secondary explosions on the alien vessel. That warning shot did serious damage. This changed everything. Human intelligence had estimated that any alien species capable of interstellar travel would have superior technology. The massive size of the alien ships had supported that theory. But now it appeared that bigger didn't mean better. On the alien flagship, Commander Vekthar stared at the damage reports in disbelief. The primitive human weapon had penetrated their shields like they were made of paper. His ship, Pride of Velkari, was venting precious atmosphere into space. "Report," he demanded from his bridge crew. "Sir, the human energy weapon overloaded our primary shield matrix," his tactical officer replied. "The frequency was completely unexpected. Our shields weren't designed to stop this type of attack." Vekthar's confidence began to crack. Velkari intelligence had reported that humans were a young species with primitive technology. Their ships were small and their weapons were basic. But this plasma cannon had nearly destroyed his flagship with a single shot. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the humans are transmitting again." "Put it on speakers." Admiral Ji-won's voice filled the alien bridge. "Alien vessels, that was a warning shot. You will stop your advance immediately and respond to our communications. Any further movement toward Mars will be considered an act of war." Vekthar's anger overcame his surprise. These primitive humans had damaged his ship and were now making threats. No species had ever successfully challenged the Velkari Empire. He would not be the first commander to retreat from inferior beings. "All ships," he ordered, "target the human defense platform. Destroy it completely." "Sir," his tactical officer protested, "perhaps we should reconsider. Their weapons appear more advanced than our intelligence suggested." "No," Vekthar slammed, his fist on his command chair. "We are the Velkari Empire. We do not retreat from primitives." Back on Luna Station, Admiral Ji-won watched the alien fleet change formation. All 15 ships turned their weapons toward Guardian platform. Major, "Tae-hyung, evasive maneuvers. They're targeting you." Guardian began to move, its massive bulk surprisingly agile for such a large platform. Major Tae-hyung had drilled his crew for years in combat maneuvers. Now their training would be tested against real enemies. The alien ships opened fire with beams of red energy. The space around Guardian filled with deadly light as the Valkyrie tried to destroy the human platform. But Tae-hyung had already moved Guardian to a new position. "Their targeting is slow," Tae-hyung reported. "They're firing where we were, not where we are." "Return fire," Ji-won ordered. "Full power. Target their weapon systems. Guardian's plasma cannons charged to maximum power." The air on the platform hummed with electrical energy as the weapon systems drew power from the fusion reactors. Engineer So-min watched her power readings carefully. "Major, we're at 100% power. All systems green. Fire." Tae-hyung commanded. 3 plasma bolts shot out from Guardian, each one aimed at a different alien ship. The bright blue beams crossed space in seconds, striking their targets with devastating effect. The first beam hit an alien escort ship amidships. The vessel simply exploded, torn apart by the massive energy release. The second beam struck another escort, cutting it in half like a sword through paper. The third beam hit the alien flagship's weapon systems, causing explosions all along its hull. 3 alien ships destroyed or disabled, Hyuna reported. The remaining ships are pulling back. On the Valkyrie flagship, alarms screamed as damage. Reports flooded in. Half of their weapons were destroyed, and 2 escort ships were completely gone. "Sir," the tactical officer said quietly, "we need to withdraw. These humans are more dangerous than we thought." But Vekthar's pride wouldn't let him retreat. "Signal the Second Fleet. Tell them to jump in immediately. We need reinforcements." "Sir, that will bring 30 more ships into the battle." "Good. We'll crush these humans with overwhelming numbers." Back on Luna Station, Admiral Ji-won studied the tactical situation. The aliens had pulled back after losing 3 ships, but they hadn't retreated. Long-range sensors detected more ships jumping into the outer system. "Admiral," Captain Minho reported, "I count 30 additional alien vessels. They're massing for a major attack." Ji-won activated the fleet communication channel. "All stations, this is Admiral Ji-won. The aliens have brought reinforcements. This is now a full-scale invasion. All defense units, prepare for extended combat. Operations." She looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, 45 alien warships were preparing to attack human colonies. But she also knew something the aliens didn't understand yet. Humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They knew how to adapt, how to survive, and how to win against superior numbers. The aliens had made a critical mistake by attacking, without understanding their enemy. Now they would learn what humans were really capable of when their homes were threatened. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Kyung-soo received the emergency alert that changed everything. The invasion protocols, written decades ago by military planners who had hoped they would never be needed, were now active for the first time. His fingers moved across the control panel, entering the codes that would wake up humanity's greatest secret. The Prometheus network had been built over 50 years, hidden from the public, disguised as civilian infrastructure. Now it would reveal its true purpose. "Computer, activate Prometheus network. Authorization code Alpha 77 Omega," he spoke clearly. The computer's calm voice responded. "Authorization confirmed. Activating all network nodes. Estimated. Time to full activation, 15 minutes. Across human space, hidden transmitters began broadcasting coded signals. On every world, every station, every ship, humans received the same message. The defense of human civilization had begun. Captain Yunji was eating breakfast on Kepler Station when the alert came through. She was the commander of humanity's most distant outpost, 43 light-years from Earth. The station was supposed to be a peaceful research facility studying alien minerals. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a priority alpha transmission from Earth." Yunji nearly choked on her coffee. Priority alpha meant only one thing. Humanity was under attack. "Put it on speakers," she ordered. Dr. Kyung-Soo's voice filled the station's command center. "All station commanders, this is emergency protocol. Central. Alien invasion force has entered the Sol system. Prometheus network is now active. You have your orders." Yunji smiled grimly. Her crew thought they were scientists and miners. They had no idea that every person on Kepler Station was also a trained soldier. Their mining equipment could be converted to weapons in hours. Their research facility was actually a forward military base. "All department heads to the command. Center immediately," she announced over the station's communication system. "Code red. This is not a drill." Within minutes, her senior staff had assembled. These men and women had lived double lives for years, pretending to be civilians while secretly maintaining military readiness. "People," Yunji began, "the waiting is over. Aliens have invaded human space. As of right now, we are a military installation. Begin conversion protocols immediately." Her crew moved with practiced efficiency. Dr. Wansu, the head of geology, became Lieutenant Wansu, weapons specialist. Engineer Youngmi became Sergeant Youngmi, tactical systems operator. Within an hour, the peaceful research station had transformed into a fortified military base. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Jiho received his own activation signal. He commanded the asteroid mining fleet in the Tau Ceti system. 12 massive ships worked the asteroid belt, extracting metals and minerals for human colonies. What the public didn't know was that these mining ships were also warships in disguise. Their ore crushers could be used as weapons. Their heavy shields, designed to protect against asteroid impacts, could stop enemy fire. Their powerful engines could outrun most military vessels. "All ships, form up for combat operations," Jiho ordered. "Mining gear offline, weapons online. We're going to war." Back on Earth, Specialist Hana sat in a hidden command center beneath the streets of New Seoul. Her job was to coordinate the civilian defense networks. Every human colony had them, but few people knew how extensive they really were. On her screens, she watched as defense groups activated across human space. The baker on Luna Station was actually a demolitions expert. The teacher on Mars was a sniper. The farmer on Alpha Centauri was a communications specialist. Thousands of ordinary people were revealing their hidden military training. Network status. "Report," she called to her team. 17 colonies fully activated, Technician Bora reported. 32 mining operations converted to military status. 48 civilian ships now operating as auxiliary naval units. "Weapons caches?" Hana asked. "All civilian weapon stockpiles are being distributed. Every adult human now has access to military-grade equipment. The secret that humanity had kept for decades was simple. There were no true civilians in human space. Every person who left Earth received military training. Every colony had hidden weapons. Every ship could be converted for combat. What looked like a peaceful civilization was actually a sleeping army. On Alpha Centauri, Farmer Deho put down his tools and walked to his barn. Inside, hidden beneath fake hay bales, was enough military equipment to arm 100 soldiers. Anti-aircraft, missiles disguised as irrigation equipment, battle armor hidden in storage containers, enough food and medical supplies to survive a year-long siege. Similar scenes played out across human space. Shop owners opened secret weapon lockers, factory workers activated hidden shield generators. Even children as young as 12 began helping, with defense preparations, following training they had received since birth. The Prometheus network wasn't just communication equipment. It was a complete military command structure that could turn humanity's scattered colonies into a unified fighting force within hours. Dr. Kyung-soo watched the activation reports come in from across human space. The network that military planners had designed in secret was working perfectly. Humanity had learned from history. They knew that peace was temporary. They had prepared for war while hoping it would never come. "Sir," his assistant reported, "we have confirmation from all major colonies. The network is fully operational. Total military strength, 243 armed ships, 87 fortified positions, and approximately 4 million trained personnel." Kyung-soo nodded. The aliens had attacked what they thought was a peaceful civilization of farmers and scientists. They were about to discover that humanity's greatest deception was pretending to be harmless. On the mining ship, Determination, engineer Sung-hwan finished installing combat systems that had been hidden in the ship's storage compartments. The massive vessel's ore processing equipment now functioned as a particle beam weapon. Its mineral scanners could track enemy ships across star systems. "Captain," he reported to Commander Ji-ho, "Determination is ready for combat operations. All mining ships report full weapon conversion complete." Ji-ho looked at his fleet with pride. 12 ships that looked like peaceful industrial vessels were now a battle group capable of destroying entire enemy fleets. The aliens had no idea what was coming for them. Back on Luna Station, Admiral Ji-won received reports from the Prometheus network. The numbers were staggering. What had appeared to be a defenseless human civilization was now revealing its true military strength. "Admiral," Lieutenant Hyuna called out, "I have Commander Ji-ho on long-range communication from Tau Ceti." "Put him through," Ji-won ordered. Ji-ho's voice came through clearly, despite the vast distance. "Admiral, the mining fleet is ready for combat operations. We can be at Earth in 72 hours. "Negative, Commander. Hold position and prepare for defense of the outer colonies. The aliens may try to attack our supply lines." Similar conversations were happening across human space. Military units that had been disguised as civilian operations were now revealing themselves. The peaceful human civilization was transforming into something much more dangerous. The aliens had made a critical error. They had attacked humanity based on incomplete intelligence. They saw small ships and peaceful colonies and assumed humans were weak. They had no idea that every human settlement was a fortress, every civilian was a soldier, and every peaceful ship was a weapon waiting to be unleashed. The Prometheus network was fully active now. 4 million trained humans across dozens of star systems were ready for war. The aliens had invaded human space expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened humanity's greatest secret. There was no such thing as a defenseless human. Commander Vekthar stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, staring at the tactical display in growing frustration. What should have been a simple conquest was turning into a nightmare. 3 more Velkari battle groups had jumped into human space, bringing his total force to over 100 ships. "Surely this will be enough," he muttered to his tactical officer. The humans had maybe 20 small ships. Even with their surprisingly effective weapons, they couldn't possibly stand against such overwhelming numbers. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the human ships are moving to intercept us, but there's something strange about them." On the display, 43 human vessels approached the Velkari fleet. But these didn't look like military ships. They appeared to be cargo haulers, mining vessels, and passenger transports. Some still had civilian markings on their hulls. Are the humans sending their merchant fleet against us? Vekthar asked in disbelief. It appears so, sir, but their formation is very tight, too precise for civilian crews. Captain Do-hyun commanded the converted cargo ship New Horizon. His vessel had been carrying grain to Mars when the invasion began. Now it was a warship armed with military-grade weapons that had been hidden in cargo containers. All ships, maintain formation, he ordered over the tactical network. Remember, we move as one. The computer will handle individual targeting. His crew wasn't the usual mix of civilian cargo haulers. They were all military personnel with years of training, disguised as merchant spacers. Every human ship in space operated the same way. There were no true civilian vessels in human space. The New Horizon and 42 other ships moved toward the massive Velkari fleet with impossible coordination. Each ship knew exactly where every other ship would be at, every moment. Their computers were linked through quantum communication networks that couldn't be jammed or intercepted. Sir, Ensign Chul-hyun reported from the navigation station, we have firing solutions on all targets. The AI system has assigned priorities based on threat assessment. Captain Do-hyun smiled. The Velkari had no idea what they were facing. Ships didn't need human pilots to fight effectively. The advanced AI systems could coordinate attacks between dozens of ships with precision no organic brain could match. All ships execute attack pattern Delta, fire when ready. The human fleet opened fire as one. 43 ships launched their weapons at the same instant, each shot perfectly timed to arrive at its target simultaneously. Plasma beams, missile salvos, and particle cannons lit up space as the converted civilian ships revealed their true military nature. On the Velkari flagship, alarms screamed as the coordinated attack struck home. 6 escort ships exploded in the first volley. 3 heavy cruisers lost their main weapons. Even the massive dreadnoughts shuddered under the precise, concentrated fire. How is this possible? Vekthar demanded. Those are cargo ships. His tactical officer studied the combat data with growing alarm. Sir, their coordination is perfect. Too perfect. No organic crews could manage this level of precision. Are you saying they're using artificial intelligence? Yes, sir. But not just simple automation. This is full artificial intelligence controlling their battle tactics. Vekthar felt his confidence crumble. The Velkari Empire had strict laws against artificial intelligence. They had seen other species destroyed by their own AI creations, but humans were using AI systems as weapons and using them effectively. Medical Officer Yuna worked frantically in the emergency medical bay on Luna Station. The first human casualties were arriving from the outer battles, but as she treated the wounded, she noticed something disturbing in the wreckage brought back from destroyed alien ships. Dr. Minseok, she called to her colleague, look at this piece of alien hull plating. The older doctor examined the twisted metal. Inside the alien armor, organic tissue was still attached. Not just random biological matter, but complex neural networks. This looks like brain tissue, he said quietly. Are they using living beings as part of their ships? Yuna felt sick. That's exactly what it looks like. The aliens aren't just using technology, they're using living creatures as biological computers. She activated the communication link to Admiral Ji-won. Admiral, this is medical. We have disturbing information about alien ship construction. Go ahead, Doctor. Ma'am, the aliens are using living beings as integral parts of their ships. brain tissue, neural networks, possibly entire creatures wired into their technology. There was silence on the communication channel for several moments. When Admiral Ji-won spoke again, her voice was cold as ice. "Are you telling me they use slaves as ship components?" "That appears to be the case, Admiral. These creatures might still be alive, trapped inside the alien vessels." The news spread quickly through the human fleet. What had started as a defense against invasion was now a rescue mission. Somewhere inside every alien ship, living beings were being used as biological machinery. Captain Do-hyun received the medical report during the middle of combat. The knowledge that the aliens were enslaving other species changed everything. This wasn't just about defending human space anymore, it was about stopping monsters. "All ships," he broadcast to his fleet, "target alien ship cores. We need to disable them, not destroy them. There may be prisoners inside." The human attack pattern changed immediately. Instead of trying to destroy alien ships completely, they began precision strikes designed to disable propulsion and weapons while leaving life support systems intact. On the Velkari flagship, Vekthar watched in confusion as the human attacks suddenly became less destructive. His ships were being crippled instead of destroyed. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the humans have changed their targeting pattern. They're disabling our ships instead of destroying them." Why would they do that? Before anyone could answer, human boarding shuttles launched from the converted. Civilian ships, small, fast craft approached the disabled Velkari vessels. "They're boarding our ships," the tactical officer called out in alarm. "For what purpose?" The answer came from Captain Si-hyuk, who led the first boarding team onto a disabled Velkari cruiser. What he found inside made him sick with rage. Dozens of alien creatures were connected to the ship's systems by neural cables. Their bodies were thin and weak from years of confinement. Some had been connected to the ship's computers for so long that their limbs had atrophied. "This is Captain Si-hyuk to all human forces," he broadcast. "Confirm alien ships contain biological slaves. Repeat, the aliens are using living beings as ship components." The news reached every human ship in the battle zone. The knowledge that the Velkari Empire was built on slavery-hardened human resolve beyond anything the aliens could have imagined. On Luna Station, Admiral Ji-won made a decision that would change the course of the war. "All units, this is Admiral Ji-won. New mission parameters are in effect. We are no longer simply defending human space. We are liberating enslaved beings from alien oppression. Rules of engagement are updated. Capture alien ships when possible, eliminate alien crews who resist, and rescue all biological prisoners." The human fleet received the new orders with grim determination. The Velkari had made a fatal error. They had revealed themselves to be not just invaders, but slavers. Humanity had fought wars against slavery before. They knew how to fight this kind of enemy. Commander Vekthar watched his fleet being systematically dismantled by the smaller human force. His ships were being disabled one by one, boarded by human soldiers who seemed to care more about rescuing prisoners than capturing military intelligence. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "perhaps we should consider retreat." Vekthar's pride still wouldn't let him admit defeat. "Signal the home world. Tell them to send everything, every ship, every fleet. These humans must be crushed completely." But as he gave the order, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans weren't fighting like any enemy he had ever faced. They fought with precision, coordination, and most dangerously of all, they fought with moral certainty. The war was escalating beyond anything either side had expected. The aliens had come to conquer what they thought was a weak civilization. Instead, they had awakened humanity's greatest strength, the absolute refusal to tolerate injustice. Commander Seokjin stood in the engineering bay of Luna Station, surrounded by pieces of captured Velkari technology. His team had been working for 18 hours straight, taking apart alien weapons and ship components. What they discovered changed everything humans thought they knew about their enemies. "The aliens aren't as advanced as we thought," he told Admiral Ji-won over the communication link. "Their technology is actually pretty basic. They just make everything really big." "Explain," Ji-won ordered. Seokjin held up a piece of alien armor plating. "This looks impressive because it's thick and heavy, but our plasma weapons cut through it like paper because they never designed it to stop concentrated energy beams. They've been fighting enemies who use projectile weapons for so long that they forgot about other threats." "What about their shields?" "Same problem. Their shield generators are powerful, but they only protect against specific types of weapons. Change the frequency of our plasma cannons just a little bit, and their shields become useless." Engineer Rena worked at another table examining alien computer systems. "Admiral, their computers are even more interesting. They're not really computers at all. They're biological brains wired into machines. We know about the slaves," Ji-won replied. "No, ma'am, this is different. The slaves are for basic ship functions. But their main computers are the brains of the species that used to rule the Velkari Empire. They conquered their own creators and turned them into living computers." The implications hit everyone at the same time. The Velkari weren't just slavers. They were a species that had murdered their own creators and used their brains as thinking machines. "How long ago did this happen?" Ji-won asked. "Based on the neural degradation, I'd say about 300 years. The original computer brains are failing now. That's probably why they're looking for new territory. They need fresh biological computers to replace the ones that are dying." Admiral Ji-won felt a cold rage building inside her. The aliens hadn't come to human space just for conquest. They had come to harvest human brains for their computer systems. "Commander Seokjin, how quickly can you modify our weapons to exploit these weaknesses?" "Give me 6 hours, Admiral. I can upgrade every weapon in the fleet." While Seokjin worked on weapon modifications, Communications Officer Nari was making an even more important discovery. She had been analyzing captured Velkari communication equipment, trying to understand their language and technology. "Admiral," she called excitedly, "I've broken their encryption system." "Already?" "Yes, ma'am. It wasn't as hard as I expected. Their security is designed to keep slaves from communicating with each other, not to stop military intelligence operations. I can now intercept and decode all Velkari military communications." Nari's fingers moved quickly over her console. "I'm also able to send false messages using their own communication systems. I can make their ships think they're receiving orders from their commanders." This opened up possibilities that Admiral Ji-won had never considered. "Can you redirect their reinforcement fleets?" "Better than that, ma'am. I can send them to locations where we want them to go. We can lead entire alien fleets into ambushes." Across human space, the tide of war was turning. What had started as a desperate defense was becoming a coordinated offensive. Humanity's greatest advantage wasn't superior technology or larger numbers. It was adaptability. Pilot Wanho led a squadron of fighters on a mission deep into alien-controlled space. His ships were disguised as escape pods, using technology copied from Velkari stealth systems. But human engineers had improved the alien designs, making the fighters completely invisible to enemy sensors. "Target confirmed," he reported as his squadron approached a massive Velkari supply convoy. 12 transport ships with minimal escort. The alien convoy was carrying biological computer components to reinforce the invasion fleet. Hundreds of all captured beings from dozens of species, all destined to be wired into Velkari ship systems. Remember, Wanho told his pilots, disable the transports but destroy the escorts. We want those prisoners alive. The human fighters attacked without warning, appearing from nowhere as their stealth systems shut down. The alien escorts never had a chance to respond before plasma fire destroyed their weapons and engines. Within minutes, the entire convoy was captured. Human boarding teams rescued nearly 1,000 enslaved beings from the transport ships. Many of them had been prisoners for decades, waiting to be turned into biological computers. But more importantly, the loss of the convoy left the main Velkari fleet without reinforcements. Communication Officer Nari had intercepted their supply requests and redirected the convoy into human hands. Tactical Officer Minji coordinated the growing human offensive from her command center on Mars. She had access to real-time intelligence from across the war zone, allowing her to direct human forces with precision the aliens couldn't match. Squadron 7, redirect to coordinates 445892, she ordered. Alien patrol ships are approaching the Vega colonies. Squadron 12, prepare for ambush operations. I'm sending you the location of an alien command ship. Mining Fleet Delta. You have alien supply ships entering your area. Disable and capture for prisoner rescue. The Velkari invasion was falling apart. Every time they sent reinforcements, human forces were waiting for them. Every supply convoy disappeared. Every patrol ship that ventured too far from the main fleet was captured or destroyed. On the Velkari flagship, Commander Vekthar stared at reports of constant defeats. In just 3 days, he had lost 40% of his fleet. Worse, he was running out of supplies and couldn't get reinforcements through human ambushes. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we've lost contact with supply fleets 7, 9, and 12. The humans seem to know exactly where our ships are going. How is that possible? Unknown, sir, but they're intercepting our communications and redirecting our own ships into ambushes. Vekthar realized that humanity was fighting a completely different kind of war than anything the Velkari Empire had ever faced. Instead of big fleet battles, the humans used small, fast attacks that crippled alien operations without major losses. The biological computer that controlled his ship's tactical systems provided an analysis that made his blood run cold. Human forces are operating with intelligence that suggests complete penetration of Velkari communication systems. Recommend immediate retreat to secure territory. For the first time since the invasion began, Vekthar seriously considered withdrawal. But his pride and the expectations of the Velkari Empire wouldn't let him admit defeat to a species they had considered primitive. Signal all remaining fleets, he ordered. Full advance toward Earth. We'll crush their homeworld and end this quickly. But the message never reached his scattered forces. Communication Officer Nari intercepted the order and replaced it with instructions for the alien fleets to spread out and search for human supply bases that didn't exist. The Velkari invasion force, which had started with over 100 ships in tight formation, was now scattered across multiple star systems chasing phantoms, while human forces picked them off one by one. Admiral Jiwan watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The red dots representing alien ships were spreading out and disappearing as human forces captured or destroyed them. What had looked like an overwhelming invasion just days ago was now a series of isolated alien ships being hunted down by coordinated human forces. Communications, open a channel to all human units, she ordered. Channel open, Admiral. All forces, this is Admiral G1. The alien invasion has been broken. We are now in pursuit phase. Continue search and rescue operations for enslaved beings. Show no mercy to Velkari forces, but remember that every alien ship contains prisoners who need our help. The war was no longer about defending human space. It had become a rescue mission to free every enslaved being in the galaxy. And humanity was just getting started. The aliens had come to harvest human brains for their computers. Instead, they had awakened a species that would not tolerate slavery anywhere in the galaxy. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was very good at hunting. Admiral Jiwan stood before the holographic display in Luna Station's main command center, studying star charts that showed the Velkari Empire's territory. Intelligence gathered from captured alien ships had revealed the location of every major Velkari world, military base, and supply depot. Operation Vindication is ready for execution, she announced to the assembled fleet commanders. We have confirmed the locations of 15 Velkari worlds and 43 military installations. Colonel Donghae leaned forward in his chair. Admiral, are we really talking about attacking their home territory? That's a big escalation. Colonel, they came here to harvest our brains for their computer systems. They've enslaved dozens of species across hundreds of star systems. This isn't escalation. This is justice. Major Yeji pulled up intelligence reports on her tablet. Our deep reconnaissance teams have confirmed that every Velkari world uses enslaved beings for basic infrastructure. Their entire civilization is built on slavery. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about defending human space anymore. Humanity had discovered a galactic empire that had enslaved entire species and turned them into biological machinery. The question, Admiral Jiwan continued, is whether we're willing to do what's necessary to stop them permanently. Captain Yunji spoke from her position at Kepler Station via quantum communication. Admiral, my analysis teams have found something interesting. The Velkari Empire is much weaker than they want us to believe. Most of their military strength was in the invasion fleet we've already defeated. Explain. Their home defense fleets are mostly old ships with outdated technology. They've been conquering primitive species for so long that they haven't had to fight a real war in centuries. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming weaker enemies, not fighting equals. Intelligence analyst Youngmin had been studying, captured Velkari data for days. Admiral, Captain Yunji is correct. The Velkari Empire expanded by finding species that were just developing space travel and enslaving them before they could develop strong defenses. They've never fought anyone who could fight back effectively. Admiral Jiwan made her decision. Operation Vindication will proceed as planned. Colonel Donghae, your deep strike teams will target military installations. Major Yeji, your forces will focus on liberating slave camps. The goal is not conquest. The goal is the complete dismantling of their ability to enslave other species. Colonel Donghae commanded humanity's most elite military unit. His soldiers were experts in deep space operations, trained to fight behind enemy lines with minimal support. They had been preparing for missions like this since the Prometheus network was first conceived. Admiral, my teams are ready. We can be at Velkari Prime in 36 hours. Negative, Colonel. We're not going to attack their homeworld first. We're going to hit their military bases and supply depots simultaneously. By the time they realize what's happening, it will be too late to respond effectively. Major Yeji studied the tactical plans on her display. Admiral, my liberation teams have identified 47 slave camps in Velkari territory. If we can coordinate our attacks, we can free millions of enslaved beings in a single operation. The scale of the operation was massive. Human forces would strike across multiple star systems simultaneously, targeting dozens of objectives. It would be the largest military operation in human history. On the bridge of the deep strike ship Retribution, Colonel Donghae briefed his team leaders. People, we're about to do something that has never been attempted before. We're going to dismantle an entire galactic empire in a single coordinated attack. Lieutenant Commander Hyojin looked at the target list. Sir, these are some heavily defended installations. Are we sure our intelligence is accurate? Our information comes directly from captured Velkari computer systems. Every target has been confirmed by at least 3 independent sources. The human strike teams launched from hidden bases across human space. 67 ships carrying the most elite soldiers humanity had ever trained. Their mission? Destroy the military infrastructure that allowed the Velkari Empire to enslave other species. Major Yeji led the liberation forces from her flagship Freedom's Call. Her ships carried medical teams, supplies, and transport capacity for millions of rescued prisoners. Behind her followed converted civilian ships loaded with food, medicine, and everything needed to care for traumatized slaves. All liberation teams, remember your priority, she broadcast to her forces. Prisoners first, intelligence second, everything else third. These beings have suffered enough. The first human ships arrived at their targets within hours of each other. The Velkari had no idea that their empire was under attack across dozens of star systems simultaneously. At the military base on Tolkari Prime, Commander Velnoth was reviewing routine patrol reports when his sensors detected incoming ships. The human strike force appeared on his screens like ghosts, moving too fast for his outdated tracking systems. Unknown ships, identify yourselves, he broadcast. Colonel Donghae's response was simple and direct. This is Colonel Donghae of the Terran Liberation Force. Surrender your facilities immediately or be destroyed. Terran Liberation Force? What are humans doing here? The answer came in the form of plasma fire that crippled the base's defense. Systems in the first volley. Human soldiers began boarding operations before the alien commander could even sound an alarm. Similar scenes played out across Velkari space. Military bases that had been secure for centuries suddenly found themselves under attack by forces they didn't know existed. The humans moved with precision and speed that the aliens couldn't match. On the slave camp world of Corvanis, Major Yeji's liberation teams encountered horrors that hardened their resolve. Thousands of beings from dozens of species were kept, in conditions that barely qualified as survival. Many had been waiting years to be processed into biological computers. Medical teams to Sector 7, she ordered as her soldiers secured the camp. We have beings here who haven't seen daylight in decades. The rescued prisoners could barely believe what was happening. Many had given up hope of ever being free. Some didn't even remember their home worlds. Dr. Sang Jin, the chief medical officer for the Liberation Force, worked frantically to save beings whose bodies had been modified for use as biological machinery. Major, some of these prisoners have been partially converted. We need to get them to proper medical facilities immediately. How many can we save? All of them if we move fast enough. But they're going to need years of rehabilitation. The liberation continued across multiple worlds. Human forces moved with efficiency that amazed even their own commanders. Years of planning and preparation were paying off as the Prometheus Network coordinated the largest rescue operation in galactic history. On Velkari Prime, the Empire's homeworld, Chancellor Morgoth received reports of attacks across their territory. With growing panic, Human forces had appeared simultaneously at 43 different locations, destroying military installations and liberating slave camps. "How is this possible?" he demanded from his military advisors. "Where did these humans get the intelligence to find our installations?" "Sir," his intelligence chief reported, "it appears they've been monitoring our communications for some time. They know the location of every major facility in our empire." "And our defenses?" "Completely overwhelmed, sir. The human forces are using technology and tactics we've never encountered. Our ships can't match their speed or firepower." Chancellor Morgoth realized that the Velkhari Empire's greatest strength, the enslavement of other species, had become their greatest weakness. They had become dependent on slave labor and biological computers while their own military capabilities stagnated. "Signal Commander Vekthar," he ordered. "Tell him to return home immediately. We need every ship to defend the core worlds." But Communication Officer Nari intercepted that message as well. Instead of recalling the invasion fleet, she sent orders for Vekthar to continue his attack on Earth, leaving the Velkhari homeworld defenseless. The price of the Velkhari Empire's arrogance was becoming clear. They had attacked humanity based on incomplete intelligence, assuming they were facing a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened a civilization that had been preparing for this exact scenario for decades. Admiral Jiwan watched the reports come in from across Velkhari space. In just 24 hours, human forces had destroyed the military infrastructure of an empire that had ruled dozens of star systems for centuries. Admiral, intelligence analyst Jungmin reported, "We've rescued over 2 million enslaved beings so far. The Velkhari military is in complete disarray. Their empire is collapsing." And their reaction? Panic, mostly. They're trying to recall their invasion fleet, but their communications are still compromised. They have no idea how to respond to coordinated attacks across their entire territory. The Velkhari Empire had spent centuries conquering weaker species. Now they were facing an enemy that could coordinate operations across multiple star systems while maintaining complete communication security. They had no experience with this kind of warfare. Admiral Jiwan activated the fleet communication channel. "All units, this is Admiral Jiwan. Phase 1 of Operation Vindication is complete. The Velkhari Empire's military capacity has been eliminated. Phase 2 begins." Ambassador Ki-hyun stood in the diplomatic chamber aboard the neutral station Harmony Point, waiting for the Velkhari delegation to arrive. The space station belonged to the Altarian Republic, one of the few species that had managed to remain independent, from the Velkhari Empire through careful diplomacy and hidden defenses. 3 weeks had passed since Operation Vindication began. The Velkhari Empire was collapsing as human forces systematically dismantled their military infrastructure and liberated slave camps across dozens of star systems. Now finally, the aliens wanted to talk. "Ambassador," his aide Minwoo reported, "the Velkhari delegation is requesting permission to dock. They're flying a white diplomatic flag." Ki-hyun nodded. "Grant permission, but maintain full security protocols. I don't trust them not to try something desperate." The Velkhari delegation was led by Chancellor Morgoth himself, a sign of how desperate their situation had become. The once proud leader of a galactic empire now looked haggard and defeated. His ornate robes couldn't hide the fact that his civilization was crumbling. "Ambassador Ki-hyun," Morgoth began, "I come to discuss terms for ending this conflict." "The terms are simple," Ki-hyun replied. "Unconditional surrender of all Velkhari military forces and the immediate release of all enslaved beings in your territory. Those Terms are unacceptable. The Velkari Empire has ruled this region of space for over 3 centuries. We cannot simply abandon everything we have built. Ambassador Ki-hyun activated a holographic display showing recent intelligence reports. Images of liberated slave camps filled the air between them. Thousands of beings who had been tortured, modified, and used as biological machinery. "This is what you built," Ki-hyun said coldly. "An empire based on the enslavement and torture of sentient beings. The only question is whether you want to end this peacefully or be completely destroyed." Morgoth stared at the images with growing horror. His own people had been shielded from the reality of what their empire did to maintain power. Seeing the evidence of systematic torture and enslavement was shocking even to him. We didn't know the conditions were so severe," he said weakly. "You didn't want to know," Ki-hyun corrected. "Your entire civilization benefited from slave labor while pretending ignorance about how those slaves were obtained and treated." Back in the Sol system, President Chae-young met with her cabinet to discuss the Velkari peace overtures. As the elected leader of the Terran Federation, she had the authority to negotiate terms with the aliens. But the evidence of their crimes made any compromise impossible. "Madam President," Secretary of Defense Jae-won reported, "our forces now control 70% of former Velkari territory. We've liberated over 4 million enslaved beings from 49 different species. What's the status of the Velkari? Military? Effectively non-existent. Their remaining ships are scattered and demoralized. Most of their commanders are trying to surrender to avoid being captured by their former slaves." President Chae-young reviewed the intelligence reports with growing anger. The scale of Velkari crimes was almost incomprehensible. They had enslaved entire civilizations, turning billions of sentient beings into biological machinery for their ships and factories. "Has Ambassador Ki-hyun made our position clear?" "Yes, ma'am. Unconditional surrender or complete annihilation." The ambassador has also informed them that we have evidence of their crimes that will be shared with every species in the galaxy. The threat of exposure was almost as terrifying to the Velkari as military defeat. If other species learned the truth about their empire, they would face rebellions and revenge attacks for centuries to come. Captain Sung-hoon prepared his assault team for what might be the final battle of the war. Intelligence indicated that Commander Vekthar, the alien who had started the invasion, was attempting to activate a planet-killer weapon on his flagship. The device could destroy entire worlds, turning them into radioactive wasteland. "Team leaders, listen carefully," Sung-hoon briefed his soldiers. "The alien commander has gone completely insane. He's planning to destroy Earth as a final act of revenge. We have one chance to stop him." Sergeant Ji-hyuk checked his assault rifle one last time. "Sir, what about the biological computers on his ship? Are we trying to save them?" "Negative. Intelligence reports indicate that the biological computers on Vekthar's ship are all willing volunteers from his own species. They chose to be converted rather than face defeat." The assault team launched from their hidden base near Jupiter, using advanced stealth technology to approach the alien flagship undetected. Engineer Arin had spent days studying the ship's layout, finding weaknesses that could be exploited. "Captain," she reported over the communication link, "I've identified 17 critical systems that need to be disabled. The planet-killer weapon has 3 separate activation sequences. We need to stop all of them." "Understood. Team Alpha will handle the weapon systems. Team Beta will secure the command center. Team Gamma will disable their engines and communications." The human assault teams moved with precision, born from years of training and weeks of combat experience. They had fought the Velkari across dozens of star systems and knew their enemies' weaknesses better than the aliens knew them themselves. On the bridge of the Velkari flagship, Commander Vekthar watched his empire burn. Human forces had destroyed everything he had spent his life building. The great Velkari civilization was reduced to scattered refugees and broken ships. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the planet killer weapon is fully charged. We can destroy the human homeworld with a single shot." Vekthar stared at the image of Earth on his display screen. The blue and green planet looked so peaceful, so innocent. It was hard to believe that such a beautiful world had produced the warriors who destroyed his empire. "Activate the weapon," he ordered. "If we cannot rule the galaxy, we will make sure. The humans cannot either." But Engineer Aaron had anticipated this moment. Her sabotage teams had been working throughout the ship for hours, disabling critical systems while remaining undetected. When Vekthar gave the order to fire, nothing happened. "Sir, the weapon is not responding," the tactical officer reported, in panic. "All primary systems show failure." "Impossible." "The weapon was tested just hours ago." Captain Sung-hoon's voice came through the ship's communication system. "Commander Vekthar, this is Captain Sung-hoon of the Terran Liberation Force. Your ship is under our control. Surrender immediately." Vekthar looked around his bridge in confusion. His crew members were collapsing one by one as human soldiers emerged from hidden positions. Somehow the humans had infiltrated his ship without triggering any alarms. "How did you get aboard my ship?" he demanded. "We've been here for hours," Sung-hoon replied as he stepped onto the bridge. "Your security. Systems were designed to keep slaves from escaping, not to stop professional soldiers from entering." Engineer Aaron appeared beside him, holding a device that showed the ship's system status. Every critical component was either disabled or under human control. "Commander," she said, "your planet killer weapon has been permanently disabled. Your engines are offline. Your communications are blocked. You have no choice but to surrender." Vekthar reached for his sidearm, but Sergeant Ji-hyuk was faster. The alien commander found himself staring down the barrel of a human assault rifle. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," Sung-hoon warned. "Your war is over. Your empire is finished. The only question now is whether you want to live to see what comes next." The capture of Vekthar and the destruction of the planet-killer weapon marked the end of Velkari resistance. Across their former territory, the remaining alien forces surrendered to human liberation teams. President Cheong received the news while meeting with representatives of the newly liberated species. The former slaves were still recovering from decades or centuries of captivity, but they were eager to help rebuild their civilizations. "Madam President," Ambassador Ki-hyun reported from Harmony Point, "Chancellor Morgoth has agreed to unconditional surrender. The Velkari Empire officially no longer exists. What about the Velkari people themselves? They will be relocated to a single world under human supervision. Their technology will be restricted to prevent them from rebuilding their military. Most importantly, they will be required to provide reparations to every species they enslaved. War that had begun with an alien invasion of human space was ending with the complete liberation of dozens of enslaved species. Humanity had not only defended their own territory, but had taken responsibility for freeing everyone who had suffered under Velkari rule. But the real victory wasn't military. It was moral. Humanity had proven that some things were worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Freedom, justice, and the right of all sentient beings to live without fear of enslavement. The galaxy would remember this war not as a conflict between humans and aliens, but as the day that slavery was finally ended in their region of space. And they would remember that it was humanity that had the courage to make that stand. The final choice had been made. The Velkari Empire was finished, and a new age of freedom was beginning. Admiral G1 stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed space station Liberty Point, watching ships from dozens of species dock at the diplomatic facility. 6 months had passed since the fall of the Velkari Empire, and representatives from across the galaxy had come to witness the signing of the Galactic Freedom Accord. The station itself was a symbol of the new order. Built using technology shared by liberated species, it represented cooperation between free civilizations rather than domination by a single empire. Human engineers had worked alongside alien scientists to create something unprecedented, a truly neutral space where all species could meet as equals. "Admiral," Captain Minho reported as he approached, "the last delegation has arrived. We now have representatives from 87 different species." Jiwan nodded, still amazed by the scope of what humanity had accomplished. What had started as a desperate defense of human space had become the liberation of an entire region of the galaxy. Dr. Kyung-soo joined them at the observation window, carrying a data tablet with statistics from the rebuilding effort. "Admiral, the final count is in. We've liberated 4.7 million beings from 49 different species. Rehabilitation programs are operational on 32 worlds. How many species are requesting human protection? 73 so far. They want to join the Terran Federation's defense network rather than risk being conquered by the next empire that comes along." The Prometheus network had evolved far beyond its original purpose. What began as humanity's secret military preparation had become the foundation for a galactic defense alliance. Former slave species were being trained in human military doctrine, learning how to defend themselves and others. Captain Yunji arrived from Kepler Station to attend the ceremony. Her remote outpost had become the training center for the new Galactic Defense Corps, where beings from across the galaxy learned human military tactics and technology. "Admiral," she reported, "the first class of alien cadets graduated yesterday. Beings from 15 different species, all trained to our standards. They're ready to defend their homeworlds." How are they adapting to human tactics? Better than expected. It turns out that our emphasis on individual initiative and small unit tactics works well for species that have experienced slavery. They understand the importance of being able to fight without central command. The transformation of former slave species was remarkable. Beings who had been kept in chains for generations were becoming some of the most motivated soldiers in the galaxy. They had experienced oppression firsthand and were determined never to let it happen again. Specialist Hana had been promoted to general and now coordinated defense planning for the entire liberated region. Her office on Liberty Point was filled with star charts showing the new defensive perimeter that protected dozens of free worlds. "Admiral," she briefed G1, "the new defense grid is operational. We have early warning systems in place across 47 star systems. Any hostile force entering our territory will be detected immediately. What about the Velkari survivors?" "They're settling into their new world under supervision. Most of them seem relieved that the burden of empire is gone. Their younger generation is actually eager to learn about life without slavery." The rehabilitation of the Velkari people was one of humanity's most challenging projects. Generations of cultural indoctrination had convinced them that slavery was natural and necessary. Breaking those beliefs required patience and careful education. Dr. Sang-Jin had spent months working with former Velkari leaders, helping them understand the psychological damage their empire had caused. "Admiral, we're making progress. The Velkari are beginning to understand that their empire was built on a foundation of cruelty that corrupted their entire civilization." Commander Jiho's mining fleet had been converted into a humanitarian force, delivering supplies and equipment to newly liberated worlds. His ships carried everything from medical equipment to industrial machinery, helping former slave worlds rebuild their civilizations. "Admiral," he reported from the bridge of his flagship, "we've delivered the last shipment of construction equipment to the Androran system. Their new capital city should be completed within a year." The scale of the reconstruction effort was staggering. Entire civilizations had to be rebuilt from scratch. Languages that had been forbidden under Velkari rule were being revived. Cultural traditions that had been suppressed for centuries were being rediscovered. President Chae-young arrived at Liberty Point for the signing ceremony, accompanied by leaders from the newly liberated species. The sight of so many different beings working together was a powerful reminder of what they had accomplished. "Admiral Ji-won," she said as they met in the station's central hub, "I want to thank you for what you've achieved here. When this all started, we were just trying to protect Earth. Now we've changed the entire galaxy. Madam President, we did what any decent civilization would do when faced with slavery and oppression. The real credit belongs to the beings who survived centuries of captivity and still had the courage to fight for freedom." The ceremony began with representatives from each liberated species adding their signatures to the Galactic Freedom Accord. The document established principles that would govern the new alliance. No species would be enslaved. All beings had the right to self-determination, and aggression against any member world would be met with collective response. Ambassador Ki-hyun read the final passage of the accord to the assembled delegates. "We, the free species of this galaxy, pledge to defend each other against tyranny and oppression. We will not permit the enslavement of sentient beings. We will not tolerate the conquest of peaceful worlds. We declare that freedom is the birthright of all intelligent life." The applause that followed was subdued, but heartfelt. Many of the delegates were former slaves who had never imagined they would live to see such a day. After the ceremony, Admiral Ji-won broadcast a message that would be transmitted across the entire galaxy. Standing before the assembled representatives of free worlds, she delivered humanity's promise to the stars. "To all species in this galaxy," she began, "humanity extends an invitation to peace and cooperation. We offer our friendship to those who come in peace, our protection to those who are threatened by oppression, and our defense to those who choose freedom over tyranny." She paused, looking directly into the camera that would carry her words to distant worlds. "But let this message also serve as a warning. Human space is sovereign territory. We will not tolerate invasion, conquest, or slavery. Any force that threatens innocent beings will face the full power of the Galactic Defense Alliance. We have learned that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. We have seen what happens when good beings do nothing while evil spreads across the stars. We will not make that mistake again. Enter our space by invitation, and you will find friends who will welcome you with open arms. Enter our space with hostile intent, and you will discover why the Velkari Empire no longer exists." The broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy within days. Civilizations that had never heard of humans suddenly understood that a new power had emerged, one that fought not for conquest, but for justice. Captain Minho now patrolled and expanded, defense perimeter that stretched across multiple star systems. His ship, along with hundreds of others crewed by beings from dozens of species, maintained constant watch against new threats. The galaxy had learned a new rule. Aggression against free worlds would not be tolerated. Slavery would not be permitted. Tyranny would be met with swift and overwhelming force. Dr. Kyung-soo documented the transformation in his final report on the Valkyrie War. The conflict that began with an alien invasion of human space ended with the establishment of the largest alliance of free species in galactic history. Humanity's greatest victory was not military, but moral, proving that some principles are worth fighting for regardless of the cost. Specialist Hana, now General Hana, trained the next generation of defenders at academies across liberated space. Her students included beings whose species had been enslaved for centuries, learning the tactics and technology that would keep them free. Remember, she told each new class of cadets, freedom is not a gift. It is a responsibility. Everyone of you carries the duty to protect not just your own world, but every world that chooses to live in peace. The war that had started with 15 alien ships invading human space had ended with the creation of a galactic alliance dedicated to preventing such aggression from ever happening again. The Valkyrie Empire was gone, but its legacy lived on. In the determination of free beings to never again permit slavery or conquest, humanity had kept its promise. No one entered human space uninvited without facing consequences. But more importantly, no one anywhere in their region of the galaxy would face slavery or oppression alone. The new law was written not in treaties or regulations, but in the shared commitment of free beings to defend each other. It was enforced, not by occupying armies, but by the knowledge that aggression would be met with swift justice. The galaxy was vast, and humanity knew that other threats would eventually emerge. But they had proven that free civilizations, working together, could defeat any tyranny.